Hi, players and coaches. We're back again to continue from the previous presentation on defending in our defensive half of the field. We're looking to move up the field this time into the middle and attacking thirds. So thank you as always for your time and attention, and hopefully you found the last one productive, and this one will just build on top of that. All right, so we're going to start here and talk about this defensive decision chart since we have to be able to have a common language, a common starting point, and common questions to ask ourselves as individuals, as a unit, as a block of on the field, and as a whole team, right? So as a unit, we're going to mean a forward line or a midfield line or a back line. As a block, we're going to talk about two of those lines together, and then as a team, we're going to talk about all three, right? So we have to be thinking with the same mindset, answering the same questions based on the same cues. And so that's what this is there to do, right? So whenever we can try and win the ball back right away, if we can tackle, if we can prevent the opponent from turning or force them to go backwards, that's the thing we want to try and do. So can we answer that question? Yes. Is that possible? Can we answer that question first? Sorry. Is that possible? It's not always possible. When it is, we have to do it, but when it's not and we start forcing it and we all start kind of reading things differently, there's going to be a problem, right? So if we cannot win the ball back right away or prevent the opponent from turning or prevent them from making a forward pass, then we drop in centrally and get compact to deny a central pass, right? We're not going to get split. And then we're going to try and force the ball into a wide zone, which we'll look at in a second. If at any point while doing that, it's possible to read the cues of the game and intercept or tackle or win a pass, again, that's what we should do. But if not, once we get it into a wide area, we're going to try and keep it into a wide area. Always looking to read those cues of a bad pass, an inaccurate pass, a poor first touch, a big dribble, whatever that happens to be, to try and win the ball. All right, so our two defensive priorities are to defend the goal and to win the ball back. Right, it is not to follow a player all over the place, or whatever else it could be. It is not to win the ball back and sacrifice defending the goal. Or vice versa there, right? We have to read the game and decide which one we can do, right? And so how are we going to do that? What are our cues? And those are the three things we should always be looking at. If we have more numbers, meaning more players around the ball than the opponent does, then that's probably a good time to go try and win the ball back, to step up pressure, to double team, to take some risks in trying to tackle or poke the ball away. If we are numbers even or numbers down, that is the time we're prioritizing defend the goal, slow them down, delay, contain, and allow the rest of your team to get back until we do get numbers up. So that's what we're looking for. And then the area of the field, right? We can take more risks closer to our opponent's goal, higher up the field, the attacking half, attacking third. We can have a slightly different mindset, not giving away the principles, but we can take a few more risks because our numbers are usually up. And it's generally we have more players behind the ball in case we do make a mistake or we overcommit. We've got players behind to delay and contain, right? So those are the three cues that we're looking for. Those are the things we're always thinking about when we don't win the ball and deciding, or when we don't have the ball, when deciding if we can win it or we've got to just defend the goal primarily, right? And so a few of the first slides we're going to look at are trying to not confuse the means with the ends. If that makes sense to people. So we're not focused on preventing a switching a point of the attack, as a primary thing. If we're defending the goal first, we're not over prioritizing winning the ball. That might sound odd defensively. We always want to try and win the ball, right? But we don't want to take big risks and allow somebody to turn and go forward when they're near our own goal and get into a shooting create a scoring chance, right? So that's what we're looking for. It's not always trying to prevent the switch and allow someone to go forward, which is one of the things we'll see coming up, right? So just to get a visual of the field of what we're looking at, you've got three vertical channels, a central one and wide on either side, and then we have a line of confrontation, right? A line of confrontation means where we're going to start defending as a team. That can change within a game. It can change from game to game, right? That's a tactic. A line of confrontation is not a principle of play. it's something that we have to have in mind and have defined between the coaching staff and the players of where we're generally going to do that. But even then, it's flexible, right? Because if you're on the top of the 18 and you happen to lose possession, and all of the opponents have their back to the goal and we've got numbers up and we can press them right away, then we're not going to let them out of that situation. We're going to continue to try and press right away. But if you're a player who is 1 against 4 and you lose the ball, are you chasing all around up there all by yourself? Probably not. It's going to be very difficult, unless you're very fast and the other team is very bad, to go win that ball by yourself. So you're going to fall back in and get into team shape there, right? So that's what we mean by a line of confrontation. And understand that's not like an electric fence. It's it's a general range, and that can be moved higher or lower up the field depending on the situation, depending on our opponents. All right. So just want to look at some common things first. Doesn't really matter where we are in the field with these, with this situation. So blue team's defending, red team is attacking. Here is one of the things we said previously about over prioritizing winning the ball, right? Over pursuing it. So you've got a 7 and a 9 attacking the goal. You've got 2 center backs trying to deal with them. We took everything else off the field just to kind of isolate this, right? So a ball goes and the 9 is shielding it, and the center back tries to step around them shielding to go try and win the ball. And now, as you can see, there's nobody in between the forward and the goal, right? That person spins out of that quickly, cuts it back against the center back over pursuing. They're straight in at goal with no one in between. All right, so all we're looking to do here is stay between the ball and the goal. The 9's doing a good job of shielding. We're going to keep them that way. If they're facing away from goal and they can't turn on us, we're going to have, hopefully, our holding midfielders coming down and double teaming this ball. Everyone else is going to get cover. It's not the 4's job to go win this ball right away. It is their job to prevent them from turning and prevent them from shooting, trying to keep them from going forward. All right, so we're always looking at that risk. What's the risk if I go try and do this, if I go try and win this ball, and the risk is there's no one behind me and they're 18 yards from goal, they're going to be able to get a good scoring chance. All right, so let's move into another one. We talked about this before. Higher up the field, the opponents, maybe center backs, have the ball. The ball starts to get switched, and the 9 doesn't want them to go out the other side, so they go around the outside. And again, you can see there's no one in between them, and they're now able to penetrate centrally on the dribble. That's a much more dangerous situation that we've just created. Sure, we didn't let them switch the point, but now they're driving forward with the ball, gaining ground, and be able to play in any direction. All right, so now in this situation, can we just deny that central penetration, still closing space, still trying to get pressure out there? They might be able to switch the point of attack, and hopefully now they can't go centrally, they can't go back across. It becomes obvious they're going to have to go into another wide area, and hopefully we can keep it there. All right, same kind of general idea now on the again on the attacking half. Ball goes wide, and the 11 kind of loops around. This isn't the worst thing in the world, depending on what their cover looks like, but we are kind of overdoing this here, and now the 2 would be able to drive in centrally forward. All right, so again, we don't want to give anybody a path at our goal. That's the key thing, right? We don't want to give anybody that freedom to drive forward and combine or play a dangerous cross or whatever that happens to be. The most important thing is that we stay in between the goal and the ball, the player and the ball, right? They'd have to go through us. Right now we're containing. We've given them a little bit of a cushion, maybe a step or 2, not too much more than that. So if they try to go up the sideline, we can react into them and maybe tackle. I can force it back, and we can force it into cover, whatever we need to do. All right, and again, always in this situation, if that player on the ball now takes a big giant touch, or their first touch pops up, or it gets caught underneath them, whatever it happens to be, we need to be close enough to be able to step in and tackle when the cues tell us that the opportunity is there. Okay, so we're going to go through a bunch of goal kick situations because it allows us to kind of start in a compact shape and allows us to show a line of confrontation. So in this situation, the line of confrontation is, we'll call it about 30 yards. This is obviously a full-sided 11v11 field. we could drop them back further, whatever we wanted to do, obviously. But I think for most of us, it's going to be somewhere between that, maybe the top of the 18 back to 30, 35 yards. So that's where our line of confrontation is, right? We've got it set up in a kind of common opponent, a common situation, a goal kick, where both center backs are back inside the 18, and the outside backs, the 2 and the 3, are nice and wide. This is a pretty common scenario that we get here, right? So they roll the ball out to the center back. What we're looking for you to hear or see in these next few slides is the commonality between this. The closest, the 9 is kind of getting in line with the closest center back. The 11, the strong side wide attacking player, in this picture it's the 11, is sneaking out but not running out, because that will allow too big of a gap out to the 7. So right now the 11's kind of screening the easy ball into the 7. Could easily get over to the 6 if need be, who's kind of encircled. So we're trying to like almost invite the ball out to the 2, right, out to the outside back. And everybody else is just kind of compact in the middle of the field, right? So now the ball does go out wide. The 11 steps there, screening a ball centrally. If possible, if she get, depending on the speed of the pass and how fast this player is, if she can get out there and force her backwards, that's great, without allowing her to go central. You can see how far the holding midfielder has come over to deal with that. Anybody who gets in, trying to make a pass in there should be very difficult. The 9 is in a spot where this 4 is probably going to slide over. The opponent's center back is probably going to slide over, where the 9 could easily step out to the 4 if the ball is passed backwards. And then notice the weak side of the field. The weak side wide attacking player is almost directly in the middle of the field. Right? They're not hanging out. They're not worried about the 3. They're not worried about the 11. They are helping to compact the space. If we ever had to, if the second 8 had to come over here more, and the red 8 was where our second blue 8 is, the 7 would be able to step all the way into the middle of the field to help win the ball back. If they switch all the way over in this point, okay, then all we do is just drop in and slide over. They're still 100 yards from goal, right? We have plenty of time to do that. So again, just commonalities there. Compact shape over, trying to deny the central ball forward. If it goes up the line, we'll see in the next few slides what we can do. And the weak side wide player is close to the middle of the field, and the 9 is in a spot where they could step out to a center back and or try to do their best to prevent a switch out the other side. Okay, ball does go up the 7. The 11 is immediately doubling down, right? When we say that, double team them, double down, they're going to come down here, and we have pressure and cover, right? 3 is giving the pressure, got in their back, not letting them turn. 6 is providing some cover. The 8 and the 11, or the 8 is screening a ball central. Can the 11 come down and double team this, right? The 9 is also slid down so they can't get the ball into a 6 and get it out the other side. So again, the 9 is not just hanging out up top. They can drop in here and help clog the space. And now you see the weak side players, what we were talking about before. In this diagram, it's the number 7. They're all the way over in the middle of the field. If somehow the ball was going to try and get over to an 8, they would be there to help win it, right? If you can picture a 7 all the way out in the far side wide channel, and the ball gets to this 8, now they might be running at us 3v3, right? Or at least be able to drive far into that space. So weak side wide players, when the ball is on one side of the field all the way over, you should be in the middle of the field. Everybody else is compacting that space. I could say this on each slide, but I'll say it now. Recognize that exactly where the 6 and the 2 8s are, because again, you can be doing this with a 10 and 2 6s, a 6 8 and a 10. That part doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that this shape in this situation is there. The weak side 8 might have to be a little bit deeper, might have to be a little bit higher. All that kind of stuff is reading the game. We can't draw out every kind of exactly where a ball might be. These are just general kind of positionings where you would be. Okay, so different goal kick situation here. Again, same kind of starting spot. As you can see, the 9 is kind of in line with the center back. The 11's a little bit wider. The 2 8s are in between the gaps of the 7 9s and 11s. This is the general setup, right? So now in this situation, they're going to play a cross. And instead of having the 9 sprint all the way to the center back, the 8 is now going to be kind of in line with the center back. If this center back starts walking up, they'll be walking into our number 8. Right? If the 7 is too wide too early, out to the number 3, The center back on the ball would have an easier pass out wide to the higher player, number 11. So the 7 is still tucked in. The 5 is really going to have to think about trying to play that ball on the ground through these two players. That would be a big risk. All right. They might be good enough to play the ball in the air out there. And if they do, we've still got numbers up in the back here, and the 6 will leave that spot, and the 8 will fall in, and yada yada. We don't have to go through all of those things, but a longer ball out here, we still have coverage to slide over there and give that help. Right. So next one, maybe they're set up like this, and they've tried to play it into their center backs a few times, and it hasn't worked out. So maybe now they're going to go wide directly. The 11 is just going to have to run more essentially to get all the way over there. You see, and then you see the same basic things, right? We're trying to clog up this space. 9 is going to be able to get out to the center back. The 11 is denying a central ball, so is the 8. If a ball comes down the line into a 7, the 6 will be there with the 3 to help double team it. The weak side wide player and the number 7 is in the middle of the field. All right, general kind of situation as we go through there. And then we might have teams that just try and knock the ball long, right? Nothing wrong with that. Maybe they've tried to build out and it hasn't been working, or maybe they just have a goalkeeper or center back who is good at striking the ball long right away and they don't want to build up out of the back. So we're just going to drop back to that line of confrontation, maybe a little bit deeper. We generally recognize this situation because there's no one in the box except the person taking the ball. Everybody else is kind of high and central. The big thing here, though, is to just make sure they shouldn't be able to out-kick the midfield. Right, in football they call it out-kicking their coverage. Right, the whoever's on the goal kick, same deal with punts when those happens. They shouldn't be able to play it beyond all of the midfielders. So we've got to recognize what their range is on these kind of longer balls and be able to deal with it. All right. So now regular run of play. Center back has the ball. There's not immediate pressure on it. They're able to play forward, right? So that's the situation, that they're in right now. Ball's on the right foot of the center back. He's got time and space. She's got time and space to play some things, right? Play some options. So you can see everybody is pretty much within that central circle, our central zone. They are, whatever we'll call that, 20 to 25 yards, right? Each one of those zones on the biggest field that we would be on would be 25 yards each, right? So 75-yard width field is probably the largest we'll be on, usually somewhere around 65. So that's where they're at. Ball goes wide. It looks very, very similar, right, to what we saw on a goal kick. Everyone shifts over, denying the central ball. Again, exactly where they go might be a little bit different based on how the red team moves. I didn't move too many of the red players because, again, it's an infinite number, right? That's our game. We're not limited in where we can move. It's not lacrosse. It's certainly not chess, obviously. Players aren't limited and have to stay in the same area of the field or whatever. So we're just kind of showing that basics of where we're at. You can see our outside back, near side outside back. The number 3 in this situation is close enough to the 7 to be able to close that down, but they're not all the way out there where if the 2 puts the ball on his right foot, he'll be able to have an easy channel into a 9 or an 8 making a run, right? And again, I'm going to keep pointing this out. The weak side wide player is near the middle of the field. They are compacting that space. All right. So they go back. We all step up the field higher to try and get that pressure on the ball. Hopefully we're demonstrating enough that those gaps are tight. It's hard to play through them. And if they did, we would have players around the ball in multiple directions to be able to prevent them from turning, going forward, and to be able to come back and help try and double team the ball. All right. If at any point in here, also we're reading the cues, we always got to remember that. Bad touch, slow pass, inaccurate pass. Whatever it happens to be, ball gets stuck underneath them, they're going backwards, that's the time to get the extra pressure in there, maybe the time to tackle or intercept and regain possession. All right, so we continue out here. Maybe they don't go back this time, they go forward. This is the double team situation, this slide and the next slide, right, that we have to be paying a lot of attention to. Ball goes past the 11, their job isn't done. They're coming down to double team the ball, and everybody else is pinching over, so that if they miss and they turn out, there's another person there, right? If the 7 is a good dribbler and splits the 3 and the 11 on the dribble, the 6 or the 8 is right there to help step in and tackle that. All right, so that's the time to double. The ball has passed you, and your teammate behind you has prevented that person from turning. You're coming down. This is a very, very common on throw-ins as well. If you're in front of the thrower and they throw the ball over you, and the person behind you receives the ball with the defender, with your teammate in their back, right, with the defending teammate in their back, you're coming down to help double team the ball. All right, just another situation. Maybe this time, an excellent pass gets the ball into an 8. The 3 this time is going to fall in and provide cover to the 6. The 11 might be dropping that a little bit deeper. The 8 is doubling down. Maybe the 11 is also doubling down, right? But we've got cover on both sides. We've got pressure in the back, and we're doubling down, right? Good compact shape. It's going to be hard to go through that. And again, you see where the 7 went, middle of the field. The 7 stayed high, or if the 7 was way out wide, this 8 might be able to turn, find the other 8, and they're coming at us again. So this weak side wide player coming into the middle of the field centrally is huge to making this work, right? This is the example of one person being out of place or one person being late that allows all this to break down. All right, so now we've got a little bit of a transition question. Blue is in possession of the ball, and now we want to look at that, going back to that first question, right? The last few we had, the last few sides we looked at was the situation where the other team clearly has the ball. We cannot get instant pressure on it. We can't win the ball back right away. We can't tackle, and we can't prevent them from going forward, right? The first 4 of these were goal kicks, so that's kind of obvious in that situation. But now we have the ball. All right, so our number 3 has the ball on the left side. They play the ball forward, past our runners, right? So the 2 has position. They've got their body in between the ball and the goal, so we're not going to regain possession, but we have them running back towards their own goal, right? This is a difficult situation to defend, and we are making those runs, and we can slide over to be able to kind of try to get instant pressure on this. So you have an 8 moving up, you have an 11, and while we're doing this, it might not be like a perfect diagram, right? In this situation, the 8 made the run faster out wide. That's fine. The 11 just comes inside. The 9 is helping lock it in. The 7's coming into the middle. The other 8, again, is helping it get in there, right? So this is a transition moment. Things often don't look textbook in a transition moment. And we've got to be able to kind of force the situation here. We've got numbers. They're going back towards their own goal. This is, let's go try and win the ball. Even if we can't win it, we can prevent them from going forward. We can prevent them from turning. And this is what we need to do. Okay? So, same situation. Maybe some slightly different runs here. All right? So, we're not numbers up this time, okay? We're numbers down. So, but that doesn't mean we don't automatically, that means we automatically don't go or we drop off, right? In this situation, the 11 was going to be close enough making this run to prevent the 4 from turning. And if they can be patient, and not foul a person here, that's an unfortunate thing that would happen because you let them out. So being patient, being disciplined, just trying to keep them going backwards, even though their number's down, we can still do it, especially, again, right, area of the field. We're in our attacking third. We're 18 yards from our own goal. We can take a little bit more of a risk here. And while that's happening, the rest of those players we saw before can step out here into a place to try and get numbers up. So even though we didn't start numbers up, if we can get the immediate pressure and not let them turn, we can give the rest of our players time to get out here. And again, right, we don't normally want our wide attacking player dealing with their center back, except this is coming in a transition moment, right? They're not just running out to the center back when the center back was in clear position. They made a channel run. It happened to be that their center back came out to deal with the ball, so now our 11's in their center back. Great, just don't let them turn. That's all you have to do. Stay in their back, not let them turn. Everybody else steps higher up the field to compact the space. The 9's in between the center backs. If they go to the goalkeeper, they'll go there, and then everyone will step up again. If they try and turn it outside, to their 2, our 8 has got out here in this wide spot to go get them, right? So it's not like an assignment. It's not the outside back because they're the wide player who always has to go. It's reading the game. Who's going to go here? And it makes sense because the 8 was the closest person to get up and get that pressure on the ball. Okay. Last one of these. So we're in transition. So instead of a channel run this time, the 11 checks back. The 9 went high. Okay, we weren't on the same page. We don't have numbers up around the ball. We weren't on the same page with how we were moving. We lost the ball. It's going to happen in games. So now this is what we're describing before. The 9 is up here, and the backs have 4 backs and the goalkeeper. So it's essentially a 1v5 situation. We do not want the 9 chasing around right now. We're just going to fall back into our shape. They have it. We can't get immediate pressure. We can't win the ball. We can't prevent them from turning or playing forward. Again, unless our opponent is just so terrible and we are so super fast. All right, so that's what we do there. Answer to the question was no, so we get compact centrally. We try and force it wide, and then we try and keep it wide. All right. All right. And so this one doesn't have any movement on it. There's no animation. What we wanted to show here was just that when we're in this situation, this situation is sustained possession. That's what we're trying to show. We have numbers up in the attack. We have a lot of numbers in the attacking third. We're trying to get a service off. We're trying to go past somebody 1v1. We're trying to get a shot, whatever it happens to be. This is often a scenario where when possession is lost, we're trying to instantly win it right back. You'll hear teams talk about like a 5-second rule or a 10-second rule. Like if you lose the ball here and you've got numbers up, it's as hard as you can go for that 5 seconds to try and win the ball back. So recognizing that. Not, all right, well, we lost the ball and everyone's going to drop off instantly. We're all kind of close enough in this area to try and win the ball back right away. Okay. Just trying to show a few mistakes now, a few common mistakes. So in this scenario, you can see the center back has a clear passing lane into the 9 because the strong side wide player, which is the 11 in this picture, is too wide too early. They're too worried about marking the outside back, so they go with the mark the outside back, where the 9 is just trying to force them to the outside, or for whatever reason the 9 couldn't get there and be directly in front of the 4. If this is the situation, they're going to be able to pass the ball into a 9, play possibly in combination, and now their numbers even running at us, right? If a team is good enough and playing quickly enough that way. So we obviously don't want to have a situation where a team is running at us with numbers even going to goal. Okay, so it's a simple fix. The 11 just stays tucked in. This pass there should now be difficult, right? The obvious pass comes to go backwards to a center back or out to the outside back, and that's what we want. Everybody making it easier for everybody to read the same thing and making it difficult for them to penetrate centrally. I probably could have drawn this a little bit tighter to make it that much more obvious, but obviously in a regular game, we're people in triangles, so it's easier to just kind of slide and intercept that ball. All right, force them out wide, and then it just looks like all the other shifts that we've seen so far. Constantly coming back to this wide side player, right? Because the ball is wide, we can get our outside back higher into their wide attacking player. The 11 now you see is taking a slightly different angle than before, making it difficult to go up the line. And now maybe the only thing that's obvious is the pass backwards. All right. So a lot of commonalities there. Hopefully we recognize where our positions are and feel confident enough to read the game and make the in-game decisions using these kind of general ideas and general principles, right? Can we take the general and apply it to the specific? So that's what hopefully you're getting some there. A few other things to look at. Just remember that decision-making chart, which we've repeated throughout this. Can you get pressure on the ball, which means deny them going forward, tackle, intercept, whatever that happens to be. If you can, great. If not, fall back in central, deny central penetration, get compact, force it into a wide zone, and try and keep it there, all while reading the cues, which we keep saying: bad touch, slow pass, inaccurate pass, ball gets stuck underneath you, you're much quicker than them, whatever it is. All of those kind of cues will tell you when it's time to win the ball back. Okay, what you're seeing here is constant vertical and lateral compact shape. Lateral compact shape meaning side to side. We're tight from that weak side to the strong side, wide player. within a line, right? And then the lateral compact shape is between the lines. But what's the space look like between the midfield and the forwards, between the midfield and the backs, right? If it's difficult to be split and they have to go around us and can't come through us, that's going to be very difficult for them to go forward and score. Okay. Hopefully we're recognizing when it's great to double team. Ball goes past you, your opponent can't turn, can't go forward, and you're close enough to run down and try and tackle while your teammate is denying them the space to turn. Okay, double down when you can. Don't watch your other team. Don't watch your teammates defend. So all of this has to be done together. People cannot do other individuals' jobs. If an individual is out of shape, not doing the work, not reading the game the same, then it needs to be communicated. You know, if the 7 didn't get tucked in, and now the 6 is stepping out of the middle of the field to go deal with where the 7 was, now instead of 2 people being or instead of 1 person being out of position, 2 people are out of our shape, and now we're giving things up. So you can't, if a number 9 has or a number 10 has gotten the ball in the midfield, 60 yards from goal and is able to turn and run at us, a center back trying to step way out 60 yards to deal with that, and leaving a giant gap in the back when they can't get out there in any kind of time to push around, just opens up another gap, right? So it's not an I thing. You can't make up for somebody else. If somebody else is not in position, then we need to remain compact. We need to be patient. We need to contain, allow them time to get back. But the bigger thing is communicating that, right? And that obviously happens on the training field, at practice, talking about all of these things we've hit here: compact, shift, step out, force inside, force outside, whatever it happens to be, right? All of those things need to be said on a constant basis so that we're defending as a team, right? And that's basically what we just said there. So if you want to run less, then you do this early. If you overcommit, if you're a little bit late, then instead of a 10 or a 15-yard sprint, you're chasing back at your own goal for 40, 50, 60 yards and then defending in much more dangerous spots. So hopefully this makes sense to everybody. Again, this is a resource. You should be able to come back to it, use it often. It's something we need throughout the club, and all our players need to be understanding how to do this together. I appreciate your time as always, and good luck.